Howdy, folks, and welcome to the Iron Sysadmin Technology and Open Source News Roundup for the week of September 12th. First of all, I want to note that I am recording this on September 11th, which is sort of a somber day for a lot of us here in the US and maybe even around the world. I feel like I've lived through a lot of things in my life, but nothing really sticks with me quite like the feelings that I had on September 11th, and I just wanted to take a moment to respect that. All right, first of all, Pipewire 148 has been released. This release does a number of things in the nature of bug fixes and things like that. A couple of the most notable ones are improved support for the Apple Home Minis. I guess I actually didn't know you could do this, but apparently with Pipewire you can cast to a Apple Home device, which now I'm going to have to try. Another notable change is better support for firewire devices that are using ALSA drivers, which doesn't impact me at all. I'm still going to try that Apple HomeKit thing. All right, next up, and I feel like I'm compelled to note that I have no inside information about this particular news article, and regardless of where I obviously work, I read about this on our blog while researching news for this week's show, the same as anybody else. So I've got nothing internal to share here. Red Hat has officially joined the LF Energy community, which focuses on open industrial-grade technology platforms around energy grid improvements that new demands for power are requiring. So Red Hat's getting involved in yet another community outside of our core sort of platforms and products, just to sort of make the world a better place. And I thought that was worth reporting on. All right, next, I actually have a couple of articles around AI, because this is just sort of how things fell this week. So first, we have an article from TechCrunch. Screw the money. Anthropic's $1.5 billion copyright settlement sucks for writers. And just give me a second. So about 500,000 writers will be entitled to about $3,000 or more in a suit against Anthropic around copyright infringement after they ingested millions of pirated books to fuel their LLM. Now, Anthropic is the company behind Claude Code, so I don't have details on what exactly these books were, but I would imagine that these are, coding books around different languages and whatnot. The judge ruled on the side of the, plaintiffs. I'm not really a legal guy here, but the thing that's a little bit smarmy about this is he simply ruled that they'd infringed on the copyright by pirating the books. So it says nothing about whether it's allowed to ingest the content or not, just that you should have paid for the books. So I guess that's a win. But what it's not is anything that's going to protect people that actually author content from having that content ingested into LLMs, which could then recite their content as though it's their own work. So this doesn't really feel like a win for the writers that are involved in the case, even though they are getting a settlement out of it. It really doesn't improve the situation around LLMs and whether they're allowed to ingest data in order to produce more data, thus possibly putting those writers, and in lots of other cases, like artists and whatnot, out of jobs. Our next article is from the Department of Irony. So this was published on Tom's Guide, and you'll get what I mean in just a moment here. So OpenAI's CEO, Sam Altman, no longer trusts what he sees on social media because he feels that a lot of it is just generated by bots, which is ironic because OpenAI is fueling one of the pioneer chatbots that were generating content like this. I'm sure you've seen it. You browse around social media and you find all kinds of posts and whatnot that are meant to be engaging, but generated by AI and not by a person. They're just fueling the algorithm, and they're being thrown out there to try to get your eyeballs to look at something or to argue or whatever, right? Fueling that outrage algorithm that social media loves to push on all of us. So this echoes to the dead internet theory that's been making the rounds lately, which is suggesting that much of the internet is now just bots making content, which leads to a very overcluttered and difficult to decipher mass of content that's available to the world. This content is pretty much low value, just AI slop. Some of it's not so bad. I know personally, I do use AI to help me generate content, but a lot of this content isn't that. It's not assisting a person. It's just being generated and then thrown up onto the internet for the sake of clicks or views. If you've ever read one of these articles, you know that they just sort of ramble on about something in order to fill up a word count. They don't really get to much of a point, and they were just kind of shared in order to give whatever site they're being shared to or whatever social media platform they're being shared to another thing to put in front of people. Whereas AI-assisted creation is more like, I've hit some writer's block and I'd really need some assistance to get past it, or help me make an outline for a piece of content that I'm trying to create. I can't say that anybody would slight somebody for doing something like that. It's sort of like having an assistant in your office with you. This really makes me wonder if we're going to eventually go back to an internet where you've got a pile of trusted sites where you get your news and information from, and you're not letting algorithms throw content in front of you because you can no longer trust them. Now, on the other hand, it could be that those algorithms just need to be improved so that they can better identify this AI slop and only give you stuff that's actually valuable. Thus, the AI slop would eventually go away. That's probably the best case. To be honest, I don't think I would mind if the algorithms had to die, because I have to admit that what they tend to do for me is simply get me angry. So what do you think about AI-generated content? Go ahead, put it in the comments. I'd like to hear from you. All right, and our last article for today comes from Gaming on Linux. Improvements to Proton Experimental. It's been updated to most notably improve your experience in Dune Awakening and Tales of Berseria. I've never played Tales of Berseria. It actually kind of sounds interesting. And Arcane Age. Again, never heard of Arcane Age. But anyway, there's been a number of bug fixes, a number of improvements in playability and usability for a number of games, and you can see them in the article here. A couple other ones of note that maybe you've heard of are things like Doom 3, Alien Rogue Incursion in VR. And of course, there's a number of other bug fixes that have been implemented here that aren't necessarily specific to individual games. On a side note, I want to say that on my Bazite machine, I've started poking around with VR on Linux, which is kind of my next hurdle to completely disconnecting from Windows as in a dual boot environment. And I have to say that while it does work, there's some stutter and some, well, what appear to be performance issues, even though my system is not being overly taxed, which make VR practically unplayable because the jitteriness really amplifies the VR sickness that I encounter when trying to play VR games. And I'd really like to find a solution to this. So if any of you have gotten VR working on your Linux systems, please let me know if you encountered this issue and if you have some idea on what I might be able to do to resolve this. I've tried forums, I've tried all the usual places, and I just can't seem to find a fix. All right. And with that, thanks for watching this week, and I hope you guys have found some value in my news reporting here. Reporting, more like reading you news. And if you'd like to reach out, feel free to hit me up in the comments. Do all the things that you like to do for your favorite YouTubers, like hitting that like and subscribe button. And folks, I'll catch you in a week.